They were like, we got a barrel of maple syrup. Now what?
We did it. We did it.
Let's make a lifetime's worth of pancakes together, Josh.
Let's make candy. We'll have a basement full of like those little unwrapper candies.
Wait, that is the funniest thing. So you and I steal a barrel of this. We go, what are we going to do? Let's make the little candies for years. And we'll see how much, we'll quit our jobs, no podcasts, and we'll just make the little maple leaf candies and then we'll be set.
Before we get started, a quick aside. If you are a CPA or IRS agent looking for verifiable ethics hours for your required continuing professional education requirements, you can listen to this podcast and get verifiable CPE credit by going to our website in the show notes below at onlinecpe.sharifconsulting.com. There you'll find a verifiable version of this episode so you can meet your requirements while folding your laundry, driving, or lying on your couch. Use coupon code FRUITCAKE to get 25% off the verifiable version. Sharif Consulting is a NASBA sponsor for QAS Self-Study. Hello and welcome. My name is Josh Sager.
My name is Garth Sharif.
And you're listening to The Fraud Complex, a podcast where we unpack wild true crime fraud stories without murders. Today we're diving into a heist so bizarre and so massive, it earned the title the Lufthansa Heist of the Syrup World. Yes, you heard right, syrup. So forget jewelry vaults. The target of here was a reservoir of sticky, sweet gold held by the FPAQ, the iron-fisted cartel in Quebec, often compared to OPEC. Yes, this is the maple syrup cartel in Quebec, Canada. Now, we're not talking cheap breakfast syrup. This commodity is actually worth a lot. It's worth more than oil. It's valued at over $1,300 Canadian a barrel. So that's worth 13 times the price of crude oil. So that's like $1,000 a barrel American. The FPAQ, that's the OPEC, they store this wealth, estimated $30 million in their global strategic maple syrup reserve in a rented house in a Quebec town of St. Louis de Blandford. Garth, just curious, had you heard about this great Canadian maple syrup heist? Was this on your radar at all?
I may have heard something about this, but what you just said, I think you made up. This is an improv game, and I'm all for it. I'm feel good for improv. This FAPQ, is that what you said? You're very imaginative today, Josh. $1,300 per barrel of maple syrup, worth more than crude oil. Let's get into the real case here. I want to do the real one, Josh.
Open up image one, because I want to assure you, we're not making this up. Now,
I'm Canadian.
You're Canadian. I grew up in Canada. I'm Canadian. Tell us what you're looking at.
I'm opening up image one. Well, this I know. This is maple syrup in the Canadian flag, the amber colors. It looks like different colors of maple syrup, almost like wine and viscosity. And there's probably, this is familiar to me. I am Canadian. It's injected into my blood upon birth, maple syrup.
That's right.
But
absolutely.
What you said before, that I didn't know.
We know if you've ever been to like a little tourist shop anywhere, they will often sell maple syrup. You get a tiny little jar of it and it's like $13, right? So imagine a barrel of it. Like, it is incredibly per ounce or whatever. It's very valuable. I'm researching this podcast. I discovered like they do maple syrup tastings. There's like this whole culture. It's sort of like wine. And I learned so much about the harvest of maple syrup determines its color. It determines its quality. It's all these factors. Just like wine, you can detect notes of other stuff in it. So not to dwell on that too much.
So in wine, it's a sommelier. I believe that's what it is.
A sommelier.
Sommelier. What is the equivalent for maple syrup? Do you just like drink it, spit it into a cup? Well, what happens?
I don't know, but I saw this video where they were pouring maple syrup onto snow for this festival, and the kids would like twist a little popsicle stick and they make it like a maple syrup popsicle. That would be my preferred way of
I like that. I don't think I'd want to like swish it around my mouth and smell the bouquet, but maybe we'll have to figure that out if there's a name. But sorry, Josh, I interrupted you because this is a lot to process to begin the show.
Well, let's get to the heist. So open up image 2, and this is going to be a look at the warehouse where the maple syrup was stored. So describe what you see.
Are you telling me this is... So I'm looking at white, large barrels, tin barrels, like it's just stacks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers. These massive barrels stacked upon each other and rows deep, high. Looks like a large warehouse. And what you're telling me is each barrel is worth $1,300 Canadian.
Yeah.
And
it's like
there's
a pyramid.
There's a ton of these.
A pyramid of stacked oil drums.
There's a lot of money here.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot. Now, each of these barrels weighs about 600 pounds. So to get them up there, they have a special forklift that, stacks these things. And so here's my question, Garth. If you were to steal 540,000 gallons of maple syrup, how would you do it? What would do you have any inkling of a plan for how to steal this many barrels?
Can you repeat the weight again?
540,000 gallons of maple syrup.
That's a lot of gallons of maple syrup. Well, I guess you're not smuggling it out on your person because that's just too much. Boy, oh boy. I mean, I might watch more of the World's Strongest Men competition because they seem to be able to lift things and see if I can recruit a gang of not the top ones because they're making a living, maybe the bottom half of that group. But I still think the math doesn't work out for me. You said there's a special forklift. I don't know what's special about it. If it's like a pancake shaped
it just goes up really high. Like it can put stuff like 30 feet in the air and to deal with that level, that weight.
Are you asking me if I had to be creative but stealing all of this? Like this picture represents a lot of this. So taking all
I think so that's the full warehouse. I think they stole about 10%, maybe like 10 to 13%.
Okay. So I got to get a forklift. I got to get a big truck, and I need time. I think that's what I need. Those things. I need, of course, a lack of internal controls here.
Yeah, a lack of internal controls is key. Time is key, and I will say the thieves were banking on basically the incredulous nature of like the absurdity of stealing. Like, who would steal? Like, maybe you could get away with a barrel. You could roll a barrel into your pickup truck. Maybe no one would.
$1,300,
right?
Yeah.
$1,300, easy peasy. No, these guys, they had a dream. They had a bigger dream.
What was the value of all of the number of barrels? What was the value of it?
It was worth about close to $10 million.
What? You gotta be kidding me. Get out of town.
Yeah. We'll get into it a little bit. But
oh my God.
You talk about internal controls. One thing they didn't have was security cameras. They had zero. I mean, so this crime was back in 2011, started August 2011. So now cameras are everywhere. They're cheap. But yeah, they just didn't think about it. Like, who would protect syrup like Fort Knox? The FPAQ, perhaps they were naive. They provided minimal security. They just had a fence, no alarms, no security. So the true vulnerability was built in. And then let me introduce our principal schemer, a guy by the name of Avik Caron, the instigator and head of operations who had access because his common law spouse was one of the building's owners.
Oh.
So here's a guy, he had access. I want to touch briefly on sort of the motive too. Again, it's like OPEC, the oil, what do you call it?
Cartel or like a conglomerate? I don't know.
Conglomerate, yeah. They call it a cartel. It's...
We don't want to offend our OPEC listeners, do we? Is that what we're trying to not do here?
Yeah. I just mean, this is a controlled commodity.
Right.
Like oil.
Like the prices and supply and demand.
It used to be not a very profitable industry until, I don't know if it was in the 90s or at some point, the Quebec, the collective maple syrup community got together. They formed this cartel. And they said, we're going to keep the supply limited so that we can keep the price, keep it steady. And they basically, a lot of independent farmers, they transport their maple syrup to the OPEC, to the FPAQ. They hold on to it, and then FPAQ. Okay. Yeah, they tell you when you can sell it. You get a little bit of money for, storing it, but then you don't get most of your money till it's sold. So some small business owners feel like they're sitting on a gold mine. They have a lot of supply, but they can't sell it. So it's frustrating.
This is a spin-off right here, because you said a couple things where I'm not going to investigate, but I'm just going to tell you some questions that you don't have to answer. So in the 1990s, Quebec as a province, and especially the maple syrup industry, we're having issues. So let's form an OPEC-like oil conglomerate system to control prices.
Yeah.
That's a fascinating choice, I have to say, when you're feeling like you're not getting the value of the maple syrup, is to actually price fix to some degree. Interesting. I had no idea about that. That's interesting.
And it was pretty successful. Now it's a thriving multi-million-dollar business. But, there was a certain amount of giving up freedom to belong to
Right.
an organization like this. And some people just can't tolerate that. And it's not a perfect organization either.
And when we say
yeah.
this organization, I think we said cartel, and cartel can be...
Cartel.
We can associate cartel with other things. They are not like pouring people into maple syrup bins to keep people who want to leak the cartel silent. This is not... There's no violence. There's no maple syrup violence.
Yeah, there's no dead bodies in this case.
Okay. Just checking.
They wanted to adapt it faithfully as this heist as a Netflix series. They just found there wasn't enough drama, so what they did was they did a fictional adaptation where they kind of borrowed a little bit, but they heightened everything. And I think in the opening, someone wakes up or they discover a body in a maple syrup.
Oh, really?
vat
I was
or
just
something like
making that up.
But that's
what
completely.
Netflix shows. Oh, I see.
That's what the Netflix fictional version did. Yeah. So there is actually a Netflix documentary about this that we'll put in the show notes. You can check out as well. It gets a little bit more into the cartel stuff.
Okay.
But we're going to focus on the heist. So Avec Caron, he had access. He had a common law spouse with one of the building's owners. So Caron and his team, they began their year-long operation in August 2011. So they needed speed and, crucially, an insider. Now, this has come up in multiple cases. What happened was a Federation worker noticed water around a barrel and approached a manager. But instead of contacting the authorities, the manager allegedly offered this worker $10,000 in hush money and more inducement to join in the scheme. What they were doing was smuggling out barrels, emptying out the maple syrup, filling them with water, then putting the original barrels back. So this worker then he was the first one to sort of discover the heist. But then the worker became part of the scheme. He became the vital accomplice, ensuring that these heavy, full barrels were moved out for shipment by night, and that the lighter, empty decoys were stacked safely back in line. For a while, they were filling them up with water. After a while, they got lazy and just started putting the barrels back.
Oh, I see.
It was a lot of work. It was pretty heavy duty work to fill these
heavy
things
water, I guess. I see.
Heavy water.
Interesting. I got a little bit of a diagram going here. I watched this show, one of the best Netflix shows I've seen for science fiction, is called Dark. If you ever see it, I highly recommend it. You need sometimes a diagram of people. Not this one. There's so many characters in them. Avec Caron, French. This is so bad. My French is so bad. I'll call him Avec. So we got a couple connections here. So he has this common law spouse who's the owner of the warehouse. Is that correct?
She was one of the building's owners.
One of the building's owners. So that allows some access. And then you get an insider, because that was enough for them to start this, replacing up the barrels with water and then taking out the syrup. But once the worker discovered it with the water started pouring from maybe the bottom, they got that worker to be part of it because they didn't want to be discovered.
Yeah, the manager knew, then the worker was potentially a whistleblower, but then got brought in. The genius of this plan lay in the swap. So Caron's group, they worked systematically, often under the cover of darkness, to drain 9,571 barrels over about a year of the distinctively colored FPAQ syrup. To hide the massive volume loss, they refilled these barrels with water. The stolen syrup totaled nearly 6 million pounds, was transferred to other containers, including plastic containers, typically reserved for chemicals. One heartbreaking thing.
Oh, no.
When this heist, when it all came out, they did find some of these barrels. They had to throw them all away because these barrels were used for chemicals, so they couldn't meet the human hygiene standards for food. So they stole all this stuff, but then all the maple syrup had to just be discarded.
Wait a minute now. That's a national offense in Canada.
That is
they could bring back the death penalty, capital punishment for that. So now, I'm all for a maple syrup heist, and I'm always trying to figure out which, find it, not to make judgments and to hear the side of the fraudsters, but I don't like that. The fact that they use the barrels that they were using, whether they get it from some chemical waste
I don't know.
site, like in RoboCop? What is this?
I don't know if they were truly, if they'd been used or just they didn't know. You know what I mean? Like there was no oversight, so you probably couldn't really sell that stuff.
I'm not happy with that.
In good conscience.
So they had to throw out the maple syrup once it was recovered.
They threw out anything that was recovered.
Gosh. That might have been the year my water tasted a little sweeter, though. I remember that year.
Yeah.
So why is I would just tap water taste a little. Anyway.
I keep crashing after a glass of water, like at 2 p.m.
What is with this water? I'm trying to, just drink water, and I feel like a sugar rush and then the sugar crash. Okay, I hear you.
So we're going to add some more people to this story because once you move the syrup, you're going to need somebody to sell the syrup. So this next step required industrial logistics, spearheaded by the black market kingpin, Richard Valliere, a notorious barrel roller. It's what they call the maple syrup wheeler and dealers. Valliere organized the subsequent trafficking using massive 53-foot truck trailers. And then he had this network, including hubs like his father's Sugar Shack in St. Adalbert, which was used for bulk transfer and where pond water was pumped in to replace the syrup in barrels. Then Valliere liquidated the stolen goods. He had all the connects. He sold them to buyers like this guy Etienne St. Pierre in New Brunswick and ensured that half of the contraband syrup found its way to the United States market. So they stole this stuff, and they were also selling it on the black market, which was an offense to the OPEC, the FPAQ cartel.
I can see that being an offense to them.
Yeah, I mean, it threw off their whole plan. They had to control supply, and this was opening the floodgates of maple syrup.
Opening the floodgates of maple syrup. That's like an image, like almost like The Shining, except instead of blood, it's maple syrup pouring out of the elevator.
It's very slow, but once it gets to you, there's no escape.
I can see that scene from Kubrick. You got it plays over like 45 minutes until it hits the camera angle he wants. That maple syrup just doesn't cooperate. I can see Kubrick just losing his mind, going, "Gosh, this is not. I didn't think this was gonna happen." So barrel roller.
Yeah, that's what they call them.
Is that the street name for this?
No, that's just like if you're dealing maple syrup, you get the cool nickname of a barrel roller.
Well, now I want to deal with maple syrup. And Richard Valliere, I know we're gonna I have trouble with these names, but he was a barrel roller, but he was ultimately the middle person, knowing what he was getting. Yeah. He was helping to facilitate the fencing of said syrup. Did he have legitimate barrel rolling with legitimate syrup, or is it only a barrel roller for contraband or stolen syrup?
Modern times you use a forklift, but you got to get the barrel moved around. I bet you're rolling. The only way to move these barrels is to roll them. Let's face it. If you don't have a forklift handy, I imagine it goes back to the day when they didn't have forklifts and they were barrel rolling. They had to transport these things somehow.
This seems like a lot of people power. You need several people involved, not just Richard.
Again, it's like one of these it was a good money-making scheme, temporarily at least, but yeah, a lot of darn effort. And I don't know if, they did this over a year. They eventually arrested over 20 people.
Right.
Only a few, finally were convicted, but there's a lot of people involved in this. It's just like organizing a legitimate business. You could probably make this money in a legitimate way. You know what I mean?
I think that's always the case in this. I hear how much effort this is. And I go, it is definitely entertaining, but I mean, they even got lazy themselves. They couldn't even bother to fill up the barrels with pond water at some point, which it does kind of help a little bit because the weight. They're like, I am so tired of the pond water fill up part of our jobs. I could hear unions, you know what? I agreed to sell maple syrup. I agreed to replace barrels, but I didn't agree for pond water refilling, and that's where I draw the line. And that's when they just started putting empty barrels back. It's funny.
Yeah, they got complacent. But there was something funny about this. So once it began to unravel, they discovered that there was a group text a lot of them were using Star Wars character names as aliases. Right. And they registered a burner phone to 234 Dark Side. Everybody was freaking out on this group text, when things finally began to fracture in July 2012. And you'll be curious about this. This was as the annual FPAQ audit loomed. So, Garth, let me ask you this. Would you say that accountants are heroes who put their lives on the line day in and day out typically?
Well, I have to say yes. There's no other choice for me here. Otherwise, I lose all my viewership and my credibility. Even though we have had fraud cases where the bookkeeper have not done good stuff. But I'm going to say yes, we are. We're heroes. We deserve a Marvel or DC character. I think more than Ben Affleck's character. I think we need a suit, we need a power. So yes, I do.
I've talked a little bit of trash against accountants because often they have the opportunity component, and so they tend to be involved in these things, or at least people who call themselves accountants.
That's all we're
need. Not talking about the certified ones.
No, but that's all we need.
We're not talking certified.
We don't even need the other parts of the fraud triangle. Is that what you're saying? You just give an accountant opportunity, rationalization. They don't need. There's no reason for them. There's no rationalization to it. Is that what you're saying? Oh.
I would be tempted if I was ever in a position to go down to steal a couple quick mil. I'd be tempted. Let's face it. But in July 30th, 2012. FPAQ accountant Michel Gavreau, our hero, conducted his audit. He was literally physically scaling the barrels stacked 6 high, and he nearly fell when he reached for a barrel out on the top that was shockingly light. So he nearly died, you could say.
I would have made it to the Netflix
service.
Show.
Yeah, the service of an audit. And
that's typical.
When he tapped,
Josh, that's typical. Like, I would have expected anything less of this man than to put himself in harm's way, jump into the barrel, and go in there not knowing what was in there. That we risk our lives every day. People don't know.
Every day. He tapped it, and he said it
told
like like a gong.
Not like
yeah,
tree.
He was like,
this is a tree usually tapped for maple syrup.
No. He like knocked on the barrel, and it made out a ringing gong sound. And so this uncovered everything. The ensuing investigation confirmed the organized nature of the theft, revealing that thousands of barrels had been systemically drained and replaced with water, triggering the investigation, which instantly became the authorities' most important investigation in terms of the value of stolen goods in that region's history. So I mentioned more than 20 people were wanted in connection with the robbery. They were initially arrested. Only a fraction of the maple syrup was ever recovered. And I'll just tell you what happened. So Avid Karan, the head of operations, he was found guilty. He was given 72 months, so about 6 years imprisonment, and ordered to pay compensatory.
That's a big word. It's a big word.
It was a big word.
I'm glad.
$1,693,000. On top of that. But the middle guy, Richard Valliere, the black market kingpin barrel roller, was sentenced to 7.3 years. And he was also ordered to pay restitution of initially was $9 million, $393,000. So almost $10 million.
They don't have the money. Did they get it back? No way.
He challenged that, and eventually, I think that amount got lowered. But the idea was they stole about $10 million worth of maple syrup. That should be the fine. But hardly. I don't think much has been recovered.
Okay.
But his 8-year prison term was upheld, so he went down for quite a while. So Garth, if you were to take one lesson from all of this, what would it be?
Well, I have many lessons from this. One, I think you might have had some contraband maple syrup in the U.S. Sounds like it. Because it did hit the market.
A lot made it. Yeah, it hit the market.
It could have been in the fruitcake. Yeah, I don't know if they use maple syrup in the fruitcake.
I don't know. Yeah, they use fine ingredients. It's possible.
One, this reminds me of another fraud that I don't think we're going to do here because it's so old-timey. But the great salad oil swindle, okay? This actually happened. So this is very similar to this. I think it happened in the 30s.
Really?
Yeah. It wasn't the same thing. They weren't stealing. They were just trying to show value when there was no value. So they put barrels of water in there, and this gavilant, amazing inventory counter decided to actually knock on the barrel, hear the sound. I guess he knows what the sound of maple syrup sounds like when you knock on the barrel, and then you can hear it on the side. And then he discovered it was water, pond water, or nothing there. The great salad oil swindle is they had salad oil, which was valuable, but with the value of it, they weren't generating enough, so they started putting water in the barrels. So that the oil would raise to the top, so somebody would come in, the person counting inventory, look and say, oh, this is a full container of salad oil, but it was all water, and the little part of it that was oil kind of was deceiving. So there's some connection to that and my feel of this.
Ah.
But what I did take away was this is one of the shorter frauds we've done, right? Like the time horizon of this is only a year. Because like we just, Rita Crunwell was whatever, 19, 20 plus years. The McKays were like over a decade. This was ultimately 1 year, right?
Yeah. It was a very intense year, but yeah, it was weird, like how short-sighted too. Like, did they think this would never get discovered?
Right.
Like, it was. I think there was part of this was the politics of it. Like, this was seen as like almost like a Robin Hood type. I just think these individuals felt very wronged, and I'm not commenting on whether the cartel wronged them or not, but they felt like it was their duty in some ways to fight back against these bullying price fixers that were telling them what they could do with their maple trees and their commodity.
So looking at this at the fraud risk triangle, we talked about the opportunity. You've mentioned that there was an inside part to this, but it looks like there was very little control, specifically cameras and the proper security, because I guess they didn't see this like gold in Fort Knox. The rationalization is, I didn't get that part. You're bringing this to my attention. Because what are you suggesting, that the people who were involved in this were also in some ways doing this against the FPAQ?
They saw it as like righting a wrong. The balance was, they thought, too in favor of the conglomerate, and they wanted to not, be at the mercy of these price fixers. They thought they could do better without them. And, they were court challenges, and there was a lot of debate in the community about whether this was the way to go. I think that's how they rationalized it.
Interesting. Because like the people who were committing these, were they also in the maple syrup trade?
Yeah, they were all part of that community.
Okay, so that's really interesting.
So, interestingly, Avik pleaded guilty to an unrelated fraud charge in April 2011. But there was other maple syrup heists historically too. There was one in June 2006, a theft of maple syrup in Scott-Jonction, Quebec, made some headlines.
This happened before.
About $1.3 million worth of syrup was stolen. And that is still under investigation. They don't know. But it's like a small community of farmers, or I don't know what you call them.
I don't know. Maple syrup tappers?
Tappers, barrel rollers. These guys all
liquid
knew each other.
goldsters. I don't know.
Yeah. So it was personal on both sides.
Wow. So that part comes through now, because we did talk about the fraud risk triangle, because one, there was an opportunity, there's value, and again, the incentive is that you'll make money, but the rationalization is the one that I always like to kind of ask about. And it's interesting that there was a connection to the maple syrup industry in Quebec, and there was a feeling of angst against the conglomerate or cartel, whatever we're going to put it, the FPAQ. And so this feels like, you said Robin Hood, right? It's like, take syrup from the rich,
in their
give to
own
the poor.
minds. I mean,
in their own minds, right? Of course, it's always in their own minds.
They took what was rightfully not the cartels in their mind. I don't think they were spreading that wealth around.
Right, that's true.
But it was an act of defiance that there were emotions behind this in addition to pure profit.
It's kind of a crazy thing, because that's actually one of the opportunities. And we've seen this a little bit. I mean, actually, I don't know if we've seen this, to be honest with you, because in the frauds that we've done in the past, it has been something that we would say, well, it's money. It's like real money that they're stealing. In the case of the McKays, or it's a Ponzi scheme. It's like assets, like gold and the gold heist. This is obscure. Like, to think you could steal $10 million worth of maple syrup, get away with it for at least a year, is just a thought. Like, that's why they probably didn't have the cameras or anything. It's like, who would even try this? Like, who would even know what to do with this?
Well, it reminds me, there was just in the headlines in France this week, there was a heist of escargot, like high-end snails. And I think it was over $1 million, but the article said that it's right before the holiday season, which is when like 90% of escargot is consumed, because it's like fancy, appetizer season. And so whoever stole those snails knew the best time to do it. These very niche things you have to have a bit of knowledge about. Like, I don't have the relationships to offshore a bunch of maple syrup, but this guy did, so he was poised.
Because that's the thing about this one, right? Because it has similar flavor, maybe a little sweeter, to other heists. But this one, you're right. I think because the same thing with the gold heist, in some ways, there's a complexity. Everybody wants gold. Gold is not just something like just a few people would say there's value in. This case, the maple syrup, you have some knowledge that there's value, but then you have to have the supply chain. It's like gold, you melt it, whatever you do with gold, you knew more about gold and you can sell it. But in this, you have to know the chain to send it across the U.S. So you can't just get the barrel. Like you and I couldn't pull this off, I think. First, we're not strong enough. I don't know. I mean, I think I would definitely need workers' comp on this heist. My back is done. But, and I would have used distilled water. I'll just tell you that. I'm like, I'm not going to put pond water in this. I would have thought, just to put some good water in there. But let's just say you and I get a barrel out of there, okay? They were like, we got a barrel of maple syrup. Now what?
We did it. We did it.
Let's make a lifetime's worth of pancakes together, Josh.
Let's make candy. We'll have a basement full of like those little unwrapper candies. Wait. That is the funniest thing. So you and I steal a barrel of this. We go, what are we going to do? Let's make the little candies for years. And we'll see how much, we'll quit our jobs, no podcast, and we'll just make the little maple leaf candies and then we'll be set. Oh my gosh. The one thing about like comparing it to gold though is like you can't really trace a jar of maple syrup. It could come from Quebec, it could come from the US. Like it's like gold. It's just gold. You can't say, well, this is stolen gold. It's like, this is stolen syrup unless you can find that pathway. So there is something great about it in that sense, but it was like a lot of work and a lot of.
Well, it's one of the first cases where they didn't get to enjoy this, I guess, at all. Like, so you could say the McKays, the Reels, the Cronwells that we've done, and listen to those other podcasts because this is a great one for it. They didn't get to enjoy the syrup of their labor, right? They didn't get to. They get to eat the sweetness.
Think of all the people.
The sweetness was
involved.
Yeah. It's a whole enterprise.
I think it cost about $9 million to pull off this operation, and the profit was around.
You didn't tell me that. Really? We have a margin on this. It's only $1 million.
There was a margin, and then that was why they eventually lowered his fine, just because he was like, I can't. Like there was significant costs to this heist.
That is,
you got to pay the drivers.
Oh my God!
There's a lot of blue collar who's filling up with the pond water. They probably had to cut costs. Honestly, that's probably like they couldn't afford this heist.
That is the funniest. I think that's the funniest thing you've said, Josh. I can see the judge going, "Listen, it's $10 million, but I'm looking on the other side of your costs here. You got the pond water, you got the gas, you got mileage." You got cross-border, fees to pay. You got bottling, and
they probably pay taxes on it.
Probably pay taxes,
to a degree, right? Like if they're shipping it to the U.S., someone had to like import that.
And there could be some what they call an inventory, and also it's in Seinfeld, but shrinkage, some of the stuff.
Shrinkage,
and they look at it and they go, this was really not a profitable heist for you. So we'll try to take it easy because you didn't really think this through.
Yeah, and like, what do you do once you've started it? Maybe it's like started off as a joke, and then it's like, okay, well, we might as well make some money because
this is such a
already did. I don't know. Once you do one, then you've done the crime, right? Like
this is such a funny case that way, right? Because again, I don't know exactly what happened. You're the one that looked at this, but imagine that the idea of the gross revenue of this thing was really there, but the distribution and how to get the money out of this wasn't like gold, and there should have been accountants brought in on their side. You got Michelle. You got Michelle jumping into the barrels. But I think somebody should have just said, listen, the planning meeting? They got everyone's around the table. And they're like, listen, we got the inside storage. There's no cameras. And if I was there, I'd be like, guys, what's the cost of the truck?
Yeah.
How much are we paying up front for our 20 guys? And I would have said, this recovery's not all that good. I don't know. That's another reason why we might have helped on the other side deter this. Or take the entire inventory, like get everything.
They could have thought this through.
It's a weird case in that it's almost like you shouldn't have done this at all. Because the real case, there's some value. They got value out of it. Every other case, there's been some value. This is like almost immediately just ends with like very little money for them. It's like
it was just like another full-time job on top.
It is. Because
it became the guy's full-time job, I'm sure.
It's funny that Netflix decided to add, because I think I wouldn't have added murders here. I wouldn't have added people in the barrels. I think this is a straight-up comedy. You don't need any like murder, true crime stuff. This is one. There's a crime, right? We do crimes where there's no murders. That's the MO of the show. But I think there's you could have, if you're gonna sketch out and just be more playful, you do it with the characters. You make more playful characters. Like Vic is like Will Ferrell type. I don't know.
I'm probably going to check it out because I was waiting for this movie. I read about this and I was waiting for the movie. I think initially Jason Segel had the rights and they were going to do a movie. And then I just didn't hear anything about it. And then it later came out. Some other people did it for Netflix as a series, but it wasn't really about the heist. And so I was a little bit disappointed because I just actually kind of wanted to know faithfully how it happened.
When you were describing it, if I was going to create a series, I would want to do exactly like you did. Like, I would want to see the heist as it happened. And then I think the comedy, tragic comedy of it was them realizing how ridiculous this was. To do all this work, get caught a year later, and have a margin of $1 million, which is a lot. But for the work, they probably work way more than $1 million worth of hours. It would have been like, this was stupid.
Yeah, and the guy went to jail for like 7 to 10 years.
Yeah.
You know, like it's
an interesting case for regret. This is the time of year you might look back and go, this time of year, I'm like thinking about the year and regret and good things. This one I feel is filled with a little bit of regret here. I'm like, I just think there's like regret for Rita Crunwell and for the K's and the Reals is that they got caught, but they did enjoy their money and they got a lot of money. These characters just regret for the whole thing,
like,
I imagine. And then probably PAQ got stronger out of this too, probably.
They built like a fortress they upgraded their security. It now is like near bank level security apparently.
Oh
like,
my god!
It was so
it's
embarrassing.
Like a retina scan coming in,
guess.
like biometrics and all kinds of stuff. Now you can't even get a whiff of the maple syrup now because I think maybe there was a nice maple syrup heist industry going on, and you said 2006. Little small things here or there.
Whoever did the 1.6 million or whatever, like they probably enjoyed that and it was probably like a mom and pop operation.
Well, that was the funny thing. When you said that to me, I thought you keep this around 1.62 million. That wasn't enough for them to put video cameras in 2011. Right? So
that's true.
Right?
It had happened before. They're like, no camera.
It's like, whatever. If they would have drawn this at like a barrel of time, the FPAQ would have been like, we don't need cameras. But because they went big, and they really didn't go big, to be honest with you, they went sort of middle ground. No one can, I feel bad for those that wanted to pull a maple syrup pipe. They're like, 4 guys like, 2012, we got 1.6 million of maple syrup planned. And then this happens, and now it's Fort Knox. And they're like, oh, now we can't do our jobs.
It's like diamonds are portable. You get a lot of value for a pocket full of diamonds. Maple syrup, you just need so much of it.
Yeah, you can't. A pocket full of maple syrup doesn't get you very far. It gets you...
You have to like rent a warehouse to store your...
I think you and I should do a special podcast where we figure out what would be the escargot maple syrup thing to steal. I don't know if this is going to be good, but like what would be the thing to steal that you wouldn't think of, but maybe you could do it? I don't know. We're helping fraudsters.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good
Well, the
concept or not.
escargot, I feel like they were onto something because you can get a lot of snails into a pickup truck.
Yeah, but it's too slow.
And they're worth a lot of money.
Too slow.
I don't know.
Snails are too
I don't know
slow.
if they caught those guys. The snails are slow. Yeah, I don't know what else would be a good fruitcakes.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Pretty expensive per
But
pound.
they didn't actually steal the fruitcakes in that case, right?
No.
Like you're thinking like if they, it's like fruitcakes. I'm just trying to think. I guess like some of the, what are those things that are like oh my gosh, those little dolls that are super popular. I don't know. What are they called? There's something.
Oh, yeah, like you find like that toy of the season.
Yeah, the toy of the season. I think they've been...
The ones from China, the ugly, the
what
scary
are those
faces.
called? You put in the comments
what
if this
they're
ends up on the episode what those things are called. I should know what they are because they're mentioned in my house a lot. But yeah, what would those things be? Like if we were to rank them too, like escargot sounds like it'd be on, and maple syrup sounds like it'd be at the bottom of that list.
Yeah.
I guess one of the lessons are don't steal maple syrup unless you really have the supply chain and logistics to do it at scale. And then if you had that much money to do it at scale, then just legitimately just sell maple syrup because you already have enough money to be able to distribute the maple syrup, you probably don't need to be stealing it, I guess.
They should have just emptied that whole warehouse. That would have taken down the cartel. That would have accomplished their goal, probably, if that was their goal.
I think we've had one of the things where we said, go big or go home here. And this is like that. And again, we're promoting some scaling here, but the middle way of doing this, and I think they got lazy. They just started to get tired. I would also get lazy. I'd be like, it's funny. I want to think about when would I start be like, let's not fill this thing with water. Let's just put it back. I like the waters. I mean, I might be like a few weeks into this and be like, I don't want to put water into this.
It's like a lot of work to go to a pond and fill up. I was thinking they probably couldn't just use the tap water because over time it would have sounded off alarms. Like, who's using like 20,000 gallons of water a month? Like, what do they do? They're either like hydroponic. Like, what are they doing? It's probably.
You're right.
Yeah.
That's so funny. That's why they use I was wondering why.
It was like more difficult. It's fun to do like for 5 barrels and make like 10 grand, but then
I just had the funniest
once
thought.
I
just had the funniest. So Quebec, it's winter. Canada, it's pond hockey, right? I just think these guys like draining ponds all over Quebec. The kids are going, I can't wait to skate my favorite pond.
Freezing over.
They're going, I'm like, where's the pond? This pond was here just yesterday, and it's gone. So that wasn't it. Maybe it would be funny if one of the kids in the community, like, listen, I have a tip. Our ponds that we skate on are disappearing across the province, and it's not just here. And I think there's some sort of pond heist happening, and we want to alert the authorities.
My brain's going to be spinning. I'm going to come up with a better heist to pull off, and it would be fun to like workshop it at least, and like. There's no crime with just coming up with a plan, is there?
We'll find out. Since we're going to put it out there. We'll do it. We'll come up with something. But we could also do a do not steal. Right? That's the other way. Don't steal maple syrup, I think, is something to... What else is something like that? Like, don't steal M&Ms? I don't know. Like, I'm thinking I give all sort of confectionery and things like that. Like, just don't do it.
You know that Dubai chocolate? Is that what it's called? It's pretty expensive.
I think you're onto something with Dubai chocolate because first of all, I love it, and it's expensive. The kanafi.
Yeah.
All right, we'll put that as a teaser. We'll say maybe we'll just sketch out a Dubai chocolate heist and see how many people get angry at us. We possibly might have the FAQ upset with us, but
maybe. I feel like we painted them not like some people paint them as very villainous, and like both sides have very strong opinions. I don't have a terrible strong opinion on either.
I'd have to know more to have an opinion, but shout out to Michelle. Good job. Accountant saved the day. It's the first time we've ever done it here. We're a hero for once in this story, and that's the way we should be seen by the public as just out there risking our lives to do our job. So
putting it all at risk.
Thanks for that. It's a good way to go into the holiday season.
Yeah. On that note, I think we covered it. I think we're going to remind our listeners, you can email us at fraudcomplexpodcast.com with fraud cases on your mind. And I hope you all have a great holiday season and enjoy your maple syrup with your pancakes over Christmas morning.
Make sure there's no toxins in it because it could be still some of the leftovers from whatever they stored that maple syrup in it. Just do a little test. Run it. No, I'm just saying. No, I don't want to hurt. I'm hurting our...
Trust and verify.
I'm hurting our maple syrup. No, don't worry about your maple syrup.
It's fine.
Use it copiously and then enjoy it. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Josh. Awesome case.
Thanks, guys.